Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm just Krashy, and today we need to update our tier list. Now, here's the thing. I'm doing the split list, the lane list, and the jungle list, and I found that ran a little bit long, so I've already pre-picked out the list, and I'm going to fill it in and explain the picks that way. So it's a little bit better. Hopefully this isn't too long, but we got to get through it. So let's go ahead and start off with the laning list. Now, the laning list, we're going to start with our all-rounders, and I'm just going to go down the list like pretty much how I always do. It's just how my Photoshop document's set up, and we're going to start with Azumarill. Now, Azumarill, in my eyes, is just not great, not the worst character in the world. It's like kind of just an okay, like middle of the pack, B+, B tier Pokemon in general, and it can lane pretty well. It scales in endgame okay, but overall, there's just always a better pick than Azumarill. But as far as the actual Pokemon goes in terms of strength, it's just kind of hanging in there, you know? And that's, yeah, that's really where I see it. So, kind of my thoughts. All right, next up on the list is Aegislash. Now, Aegislash is an incredibly strong Pokemon, but I cannot personally stand the laning phase. I could see somebody making a case because of how strong this Pokemon is to put it at A+ tier, and I would definitely get that. For me personally, I'm going to put it at a nice A tier. The laning phase is okay. Trying to get across the lane to stack with it is okay. Like, it's just a bit frustrating to play in the lane, but the Pokemon itself is incredibly strong. So I'm gonna set it here. Like I said, I could definitely see a case for A+, but that's what I'm thinking. Dragonite, I'm actually pulling this Pokemon up the list a little bit to B+ tier, and it's mostly just because the Pokemon itself is strong. I don't like laning it. Again, I think that the laning phase itself for this Pokemon's weak, but you have to kind of consider just the laning phase and relative strength of the Pokemon overall. But Dragonite is really strong, man. Hyper Beam and Dragon Dance is very, very strong and a lot of potential. So in terms of laning it, I think it's at least hanging in there. You can definitely do it. You're going to scale into late game a little bit better than, say, something like Azumarill. So that kind of holds it down that it's not the best laner per se, but it's very, very strong. And again, same thing. I could see a case being made for A tier. A little bit semantics on that. Yeah. Serena, however, one of the best laners in the game for sure. Incredibly strong top laner. Great for stacking. Just super, super strong. I really don't even know what to say. That's post-nerf as well. Lucario. I think, you know what? I think I'm finally done putting Lucario in S tier. I don't know what it is. It's not that this character isn't still crazy strong and probably still needs nerfs. It just doesn't feel like it's so outperforming other top laners like Serena that I feel comfortable either putting them both in S tier. Doesn't feel right to me. I think I'm going to pull Lucario down for like the first time probably in forever. Lucario's still insane. Solo queue is a little bit harder to carry with, and in 5 stacks we're starting to see the rise of other top laners like Serena, but it's still just that consistent, super strong pick. You pick this character, you're going to bring a lot to a team. Unfortunately for Garchomp, however, it is just not good. It's not good. It's not a good Pokemon. It's not a good laner. It is very struggling. Probably one of the worst characters in the game right now. It's unfortunate what's happened. And as for Charizard, here's the thing. I think that there's a reason why I'm putting Charizard here. It's almost to set the precedent that laning Charizard is probably better than Garchomp. I have to swap them. I have to swap them. I pre-picked this. It's for precedent. I hate lane Charizards. They're not supposed to be played. You can do the stacking, like, you know, kind of like Japanese build. It's okay. It really is, but Charizard really just doesn't come online like that. I just don't think it's really a laner. Garchomp is worse though. Let's be real. So I'll put him in its rightful spot. Machamp, again, one of these big boys in terms of the top lane. I think this character is really, really strong, can get a lot done. All right, let's move on to the attackers. Delphox, I'm actually going to put it on the list this time. I don't think this Pokemon is quite S tier to me. I don't know. I'm trying to really reserve S tier for just like the broken Pokemon. This character's crazy though. If Fire Spin isn't considered broken, then it belongs here. People think it's broken, then maybe S tier it is, but this character is super, super strong. You get so much pressure. The early lane is a little slow because you're not really a muscle band Pokemon unless you throw it on it. I don't really like muscle band on it. So your kind of like laning presence isn't super strong until you start to ramp up, but as this character ramps up, as it starts to get levels, this thing just goes crazy. Espeon getting some buffs, and I actually don't think that this character is the worst thing in the world. I think I'm probably pulling it up from the last list. Espeon is like okay. The laning phase is really good. It's this character's problem with doing damage and being able to like really have like a strong impact in team fights, but the Unite move is pretty decent. It's like this supporty attacker, and the laning phase is pretty solid, so I definitely think I'm going to pull it up quite a bit from probably, maybe I had it in B tier in the last one. As for Doraldon, Doraldon is okay in lane, same thing, kind of okay, but the Pokemon's just not the best, and I just think, like, in general, there's just way better picks. So Doraldon, it can lane-ish, but it's sitting down there on the bottom side, not really making any huge kind of waves. Sylveon, however, I think is still really, really strong. You have to get to level 4 for it to hit that spike, but Sylveon in general is just a strong Pokemon, feels really good. It scales in endgame pretty decently. It becomes hard to kill. Hyper Voice can shred. It provides quite a bit. If you like Sylveon, I definitely think you're pretty comfortable in picking Sylveon. Alolan Ninetales. I'm actually pulling Ninetales down. This character has an insanely strong laning phase, and I think that's what's probably in the past made me want to put it up here at A+ tier, but it just doesn't really scale. As far as Solo Duo Trio Q goes, you just require being pocketed, you require so much assistance, you can't really carry games on this Pokemon. It is so hard to take this Pokemon, scale it into the mid game, into the late game, and then win a game. Like, you can have a perfect laning phase, like a pretty good mid game, and then you hit late game and it just comes down to whatever the team is doing. And you know, trio, sure, that's great. Duo, sure, you can get some support, but there's just better, and it's still up here in A tier. Ninetales feels solid, just yeah, rough. Greninja, don't lane it. It's just don't. I mean, yeah, this character will scale, but you're gonna put yourself in such a deficit. Just don't do it. I mean, seriously, I just legitimately don't think it's worth it. Cinderace, same thing. I'm literally not even gonna explain. These characters just shouldn't be laning, and I got comments the last time. Oh well, I can lane this, blah 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 blah. I get it. I think there's even a Greninja player on the ladder that does do this and is like pretty high rated. Sure, I mean, I guess you can. But on principle, when you do this, you're just making your team pick up the deficit. Even if it's just for like the first like 3-4 levels, you're just making them have to pick up that deficit because these characters are not useful in lane. That's why they never get laned in tournaments ever. They're just not very strong. Cramorant, however, is pretty good in lane. The character, in my mind, just still doesn't scale super well. It's not the worst thing in the world, though, so it's okay. The early laning phase is phenomenal, but the character itself is just okay. Pikachu. This character is like the lane bully alongside Alolan Ninetales. The problem with Pikachu is this character doesn't really scale anymore. It's weird because it's not like it got nerfed or anything. It just doesn't feel like this Pokemon can like do a whole lot these days, and it's still pretty decent. Yeah, honestly, a part of me feels like Espeon might actually be better than Pikachu. I really don't even know. I need to think on that a little bit. I'm gonna leave it here just per my list build. I'd love to know y'all's thoughts. I'm not perfect, like I said. I'm just trying really hard to think about it. Espeon, honest, Pikachu might be down here, to be honest. I really don't know. It's a rough one for Pikachu. Venusaur, it's still gonna go in the A tier for me, or A+ tier, because I think that the thing that Venusaur does really well is scales well. The Mage, like Solar Beam build, is pretty solid, but Petal Giga, it still just scales well. The biggest thing you have to watch out for on Venusaur is burst damage. So you got to be careful with that. If you're using a Buddy Barrier on this Pokemon, which if you're not in a 5-stack scenario, I think you should, because Energy Amp is pretty good on it as well. If you're playing like 5 stacks, so you're not putting too many buddies on the team and just trying to do more damage. But if you're using a Buddy Barrier on this Pokemon and you're running into something like an Absol, you need to be ready to rip your ult, save yourself, keep it going, get the damage reduction from Giga Drain, and just kind of keep it going. This Pokemon can scale really well, but can also get bursted, so you got to be careful with it. Gardevoir, unfortunately, is just not a very strong laner. The Pokemon's good, but the laning phase is that bad. It's really rough. It's kind of like Cinderella. It's like the Pokemon's so good, but you're just put at such a disadvantage by playing it. And Decidueye, I feel like I've been a little rough on Decidueye laning. I've probably put it much lower than it needs to be. It's kind of like the Duraludon of laning. Surprisingly, I think Duraludon and Decidueye lane better than Grincinder, but they are worse characters than Grincinder. So this is the weird dynamic of this list. You have to just kind of do your best with it. I think that, honestly, realistically, if I'm looking at this list, what you should be taking away from it is like B and down. Just like don't do it. Don't do it unless you just really want to. I don't know. Let's look at the defenders now for laning. Trevenant, incredibly strong. I mean, just incredibly strong. Damage build, tank build, super strong laner. Mamoswine, super strong laning phase, little to no scaling into late game whatsoever. Mid okay, late game not so much, but it can hold itself up just because of the fact that it can lane pretty decently. And Crustle, I think I've put Crustle probably lower than it needs to be. Crustle, especially like in a non 5-stack environment, actually can perform really well. In top lane, it can stack, it can bring a lot of damage to the team. It's not bad. It's not bad. It actually might be better than Mamoswine just overall. Actually, I think it is better than Mamoswine overall. Crustle's not that same struggling Crustle that it always has been. Greedent still feels phenomenal. I don't know. Maybe it's a little lower than this, but in my mind, I can still do great things with Greedent. It feels like Greedents are still super annoying. They're still somewhat hard to deal with. And yeah, Greedent's amazing. Snorlax sucks. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Maybe it's a little better here. I don't know. This character just isn't good. Seriously, it doesn't scale. It doesn't have a good Unite move. The laning phase is the only good thing about it. And even if that's the case, I can't put it super high up the list. The laning on it's just not, like, the character itself is just not good. It's really unfortunate. Slowbro, however, super solid, right? Super solid. Might even be higher now. I was going to put it back where I had it in the past, but I think it might be maybe A+ tier because you can play it Mage with Scald. You can play it Surf, Tanky. The secure on water gun is pretty good. This Pokemon's really solid. I think Slowbro's doing pretty well. And Blastoise is just you know, it's okay. They nerfed its damage. The laning phase on this character was never super great, but it scales pretty decently. So it's just it's pretty good. Yeah. All right, let's look at Speedsters. Talonflame. This Pokemon doesn't really lane super well. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's just not the strongest Pokemon right now. The Unite move is okay. Scaling into late game, it's okay. Its team fighting is okay. Yeah, Talonflame is just kind of not really in the meta too much. As for Gengar, I kind of have to put Gengar up here just because of how strong it is. I hate the laning phase of this Pokemon. A part of me really just wants to pull it down because I just don't like when people lane this. It's not that strong at laning, but it does scale pretty well. So you can get through the laning phase, especially in a non-5-stack environment. You're not like stuck in a solo lane. You're not getting tri-laned on. You can get through the laning phase in this Pokemon. It's not the worst thing in the world, and it scales pretty well, but I can't put it any higher than this. So that's what I'm thinking. And Zeraora, I'm not going to lie. I think that Zeraora is super underrated. Here's the thing. It's not because the Pokemon is good in lane. It's actually trash in lane. In fact, this Pokemon is trash until level 8. But when you get level 8s to 10, you start coming online and doing big things. This is a solo queue thing. I could probably play Zeraora in ranked and win the vast majority of my games, and that's solo queue just because this character scales so incredibly well, and there's ways to get around the deficit in solo queue. Like, you know, just hyper farming, like laning this character and, you know, just trying to survive. Like, seriously, because this is how I did it in 5 stacks as well. You just kind of try to survive the early game, and then you come online, you're running an energy amplifier, you start ulting, and just trying to get as much value to the character as possible. This is like a personal controversial take. I get that. Someone's gonna call me crazy and want to throw it down the list. I get that. You just gotta hang in with me on this one. And if you want to take anything away from this list and say, you know what, that one was a terrible call, this would be the one. So I'll give you that. Absol, however, who's in charge? Who's in charge? Where can I lodge my complaint? This Pokemon is crazy strong. You can lane it, you can jungle it, you can put Fluffy Tail on it. We all know what that does. It's just blowing everything up. Psycho Cut is insane. Night Slash is insane. Let's jump into the supports to round off the lane list. Hoopa, boom, insanely strong, especially if you're playing in a group, obviously. Blissey, boom, insanely strong, especially if you're playing in a group, obviously. And then we have like Wigglytuff, who I think is like doing okay right now. It's just, you know, it's okay. It brings some stuff to the team, but it's not the best pick in the world. You got Mime, who is like, I don't even know, somewhere down here. It's like, it's all right, maybe here. The Pokemon just doesn't like do a whole lot. It's somewhere right here, you know what I mean? Like, you can let me know what you think. But yeah, it's like, the Pokemon just isn't that strong right now, but its laning phase is actually pretty good once you hit level 4. And then last but not least is Eldegoss, who I still think is incredibly strong. You can do damage on Eldegoss, you can do full supporting on Eldegoss. The character's amazing. So yeah, this is what I'm thinking for the lane list. Like I said, oops, I must have scrolled down my list. I wonder how long it's been like that. Doesn't matter. This is what I'm thinking for the lane list. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. A little bit of ups and downs here, maybe there. But yeah, let's go ahead and move into jungle list. So let me type this out and change the title. All right, jungle list, here we go. So, same thing, we're gonna start off with the all-rounders. Azumarill jungle, it's the same thing. Honestly, I think I pulled this down a little bit. There's really just no real reason to pick this in jungle. It's an okay Pokemon, it does okay things, but there's way better picks, so can't do it. As for the jungle Aegislash, this is where Aegislash really shines to me. I think that this Pokemon is incredibly strong in the jungle. I think that this is where this Pokemon really starts to take over. There are better picks in my opinion, and we're going to talk about some of those like kind of side, what's the word I'm looking for? Side grade picks or upgrades, but Aegislash is incredibly strong in the jungle. Dragonite, I think I finally want to pull this one up again. With the last wave of buffs, this Pokemon is just hitting so hard, and jungle is the place to be. You can get level 8. This makes First Dread incredibly strong. This carries that momentum into First Rotom. This can carry that momentum into Second Dread. I mean, this Pokemon really can dictate a lot, and it's doing quite a bit. So yeah, there's that. Serena, you know, I put Serena like a little bit lower, I think in B+ tier for jungle, but I think I have to pull this up, even though it's just not a strong jungler per se, because it's a strong laner, it's still a strong Pokemon, and I don't want to ignore that. If you want to jungle Serena, I think you can do it just fine. You have to adjust your build a little bit. You can't really run the attack weight per se. I mean, or maybe you can. You just, I've been almost kind of leaning towards the thought process of, if I run an attack weight in jungle, I just need at least 3 stacks to feel comfortable about it. But you're not really hitting the full potential of the character. So that's why it's not as strong, right? That's why it's down a tier. If you are running the attack weight, you're not hitting the full potential from jungle, most likely. And if you aren't running it, then you're definitely not hitting the full potential of the character. So that's kind of my thought process. Lucario, I'm going to leave this one at a B+ tier. It's a strong Pokemon. It's got the same thing going on for Serena, but I actually think coming out of jungle as Serena, or coming out of jungle with your E-Speed with Lucario is probably stronger at level 5, but I think you're going to scale Serena a little bit better. Lucario is just an okay jungler. There's just not really much of a reason to pick it. It's kind of the same reasoning why I've put certain all-rounders in the B+ tier like Serena. I just am feeling a little bit more comfortable putting Serena up a little bit. Garchomp, unfortunately, while this Pokemon is, like, in my opinion, its best role is the jungle, it's still just not that strong. In terms of the jungle list, though, it doesn't make it into D tier because there are some junglers that just shouldn't be played at all. And this character isn't entirely useless. It's just very low tier right now. So it's sad, but that's where it is. Charizard got some nerfs, and Charizard's had some issues with its ult, but it's still A+ tier. The thing about this character is that it can get the ball rolling and build a lot of momentum, and if the team is playing well, which, good luck, right? If the team is playing well, then you're going to do well on this Pokemon, so that's what I'm thinking. Machamp, I'm basically doing the same thing with Serena. Like, this Pokemon can jungle very well because it's a strong Pokemon, but same thing when it comes to talking about, like, attack weight in jungle versus potential of the character. It can get the job done. I think in the past I've just put these 3 all-rounders, like, right here, and maybe that's better, but I just feel like they're just better junglers than Lucario. Does that make sense? Yeah, sure it does. Delphox. Delphox is actually a really good jungler. And it's mostly because you just are spiking the character faster. You're getting that fire spin faster. You're getting that fast unite faster. Delphox is a pretty solid jungler. I definitely don't think you should sleep on it for sure. Espeon, I have to pull this up the list because, like I said, I think that this Pokemon is actually performing much better than it used to. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that Espeon's a pretty decent character. It still feels like it's missing something, maybe a little bit of damage. But yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world. Doraldon, it still has a pretty strong jungle presence, but it's not the best thing in the world. I'm struggling between B+ and B on this character because when I play it, sometimes I feel really strong. When I play it, sometimes I feel really useless. I'm not gonna lie. So Doraldon's a little bit weird to me. The character and its place in the meta is just weird to me. Let me know your thoughts here, but this feels a little comfortable at least. Sylveon jungle, ironic enough, this Pokemon can get a lot of work done and you can really scale this Pokemon fast, but it's not the best jungler in the world, so relatively speaking, I think Sylveon's a better character than B+ tier, but it could go higher if the Pokemon was just a better jungler. There's just so many good jungle options. If you're doing like a split jungle strategy, all that nonsense, then this character in this position probably doesn't make any sense because you're just trying to get level 4 and go lane, but you don't really get to do that in solo queue, duo queue, trio queue, really. So yeah, I mean, maybe you and a friend could do it, but I think that this feels comfortable, although I do think that the Pokemon is actually better than B+ tier. It's not, in my mind, any much better than, say, Machamp or Serena in jungle. Maybe it should be here. You can get the level 4 and then show it. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's just not really a jungler in my mind. Although you can jungle it. It has been jungled. It gets played in jungle. Not the best pick in the world. I don't know. I feel comfortable putting it here all of a sudden. Let's change that. Whatever. Ninetales. It's not really a jungler. It can do it. Character doesn't scale super well. We talked about that earlier. And you're not even getting the lane benefit of it. B tier. Greninja. This is a solo queue monster. It just always has been. Probably always will be. And Cinderella for the exact same reason. Like, these Pokemon are just tried and true when it comes to solo queuing in jungle. They just build momentum, and that's what you carry with, is the momentum and just being faster and stronger than everybody when it comes to gaining levels. You can just really snowball and win games just on that alone. Cramorant in jungle is actually not the worst thing in the world. Gotta be honest. I still don't think this Pokemon scales super well. I still think its Unite move kind of sucks a little bit, but Cramorant in jungle is surprisingly not that bad. As for Pikachu, it's the same thing as Ninetales. There's just really no reason to do it. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but there's just way better options for sure. Venusaur jungle, however, I think is pretty damn solid. This thing can really scale, do some work, get its levels fast, but you can still do the same thing at a lane. So there's just better picks, and that's pretty much what a tier list is all about. It's just trying to put it in a position where it's like, this is how strong the character is, but there's also some better picks. Gardevoir, I actually think that Gardevoir does really, really well in jungle. Even so, yeah, it can get dove by Absol, and yeah, it can get killed incredibly strong, or like incredibly quickly, but this thing is still really strong. I think Gardevoir might have been a little forgotten by the player base or something, or at least in the jungle, but Gardevoir's still really strong. If it's a preferential pick of yours, I say give it a shot in jungle. I think you're still going to be able to do really well if you can position with it. All right, where did I put this stupid owl? I actually don't have it on my other pre-built list. This thing is, it's I don't know, I hate Decidueye. I think that if you've ever paid attention, you could probably pick that up. I don't like this Pokemon. I think it's super easy to kill. I hate the Unite move, and Spirit Shackle is the only thing that ever brought it kind of forward to me a little bit. I'm just not a fan. But that said, it's better than some, worse than others. This is what I think. I don't know. I don't know. Revenant, you shouldn't really be jungling this thing, and it scales better than some other Pokemon, so honestly, it could in some ways be better than the B tier, but you really shouldn't be jungling it, and I think that that's why I'm comfortable putting in C tier. You just play it in lane, you know what I mean? Leave jungle for something that's going to carry a little bit harder. The same goes for Mamoswine, and this is relative to D tier, so just give me some time. We're going to get there. But yeah, you should not be jungling these picks, in my opinion. Crustle, I actually don't think that Crustle the worst jungle pick in the world, but the same thing, right? You really shouldn't be picking it. That said, relatively speaking, this character can run a damage build and would make a little bit more sense than, say, Mamo or Trevenant in terms of jungle. And I guess the same could be said about Greedent. There's really no reason to jungle this character with how strong it is in lane, but technically you could do it and it would be okay. Snorlax, no, never. Slowbro, honestly, kinda. It may even be up here because you don't need to stack on this character, and Scald is strong. Yeah, I mean, I think Slowbro jungle could actually be pretty decent. I think it's B+ is the highest I could probably put. I could maybe even put it at A. I maybe could, but there's other jungle picks. So it's strong with Scald, don't get me wrong, but I don't really need to do it. So that's just kind of how I'm thinking. Blastoise is somewhere in this area. The Pokemon, as far as jungle, is probably its best role, because that's kind of where its best role always was, unless you're trying to force stacks. But you don't necessarily need stacks unless you're trying to get the max amount of damage. If you want to go for more of like the all-rounder kind of style feel, you can jungle this Pokemon pretty well. The Pokemon scales well, team fights well. It's just not the best pick in the world after its nerfs. And so, yeah, you have to kind of deal with that. Talonflame, Talonflame, Talonflame. You know, this Pokemon in jungle feels pretty good, but there's just better picks. I think that's just kind of the story of Talonflame lately. There's just better picks than Talonflame these days, and that kind of sucks. Gengar's super strong in solo queue. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. This thing's just a menace in solo queue. This is another Zeraora hot take. I don't think this Pokemon's as bad as people think. it's just you have to get through the laning phase. At least when you jungle this Pokemon, you can probably hit level 8, so you're level 8 for first dread, but you gotta just get through the mud on this Pokemon, and that's what holds it down. But I think relatively speaking, strength wise, I personally would rather have a Zeraora jungle than anything else on this list down here personally. So that's why it at minimum makes B+ tier for jungle. Absol is broken. I don't even need to talk about it anymore. It's just broken. Hoopa, you should never really jungle it, I don't think. Mime, I mean, it's probably slightly better jungle than, you know, Snorlax. Hoopa. Eldegoss is actually better jungler than this whole list down here, even though I'm kind of like getting her cut off on the list. But honestly, if you really wanted to, it's better than these picks down here. Wiggly, same thing, you can kind of jungle it better than these down here. And Blissey, nah, like even though that scales like into late game. So that's the jungle tier list, friends. I try to make this one a little bit faster. We're still at 25.5 minutes. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I actually put Delphox on the list this time, and Absol went to the moon. So Absol stonks her up. But like I said, thank you so much for watching. I definitely do appreciate it. Drop a like on the video, subscribe for future Pokemon Unite content. As always, be sure to be kind to one another. Tell some of you love them. I'll see you in the next video.